Hi friends, and welcome to Screen Vomit, the only movie podcast for normal people. I'm of course your host Kayla, and if you like the show, you can follow us on Instagram and everywhere else at Screen Vomit, one word on all the things. I also have a Patreon now. If you'd like to support the show, you can find that at patreon.com/screenvomit. Okay, and getting to my show today, I am of course joined by a guest. My guest is the drummer of one of my favorite bands of all time, Dr. Manhattan. They have been unofficially, I guess, broken up for a few years, but I have seen them just so many times in so many states. We kind of talk about it a little bit in the episode. I have a huge tattoo for them, huge fan. He also has just started a new podcast called We Thought This Was Good, where he and a pal are rewatching and reviewing movies they grew up on, formative films for them, and seeing how they hold up in these days. And that would be my guest, Nick Vombrack. Okay, I'm here with Nick Vombrack.
Hey. Thank you for having me.
How's it freaking going? Hell yeah.
It's good. It's good to see you again.
Hell yeah, you too. And it's been a while.
Yes.
And we've known each other for a while.
Yes.
Do you remember when was the first time that you played ES Jungle? Do you remember what year that would be?
I'm going to say 2009, but I don't know that that's right. That's
2008 or 2009
like
would be my
ballpark.
guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've been knowing each other since...
Yeah, past a decade.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been along for the ride.
Yeah, hell yeah. I used to go see you guys' band everywhere as much as I could, as often as I could.
Yeah. It was good because then we'd play a place that we didn't know or people weren't there, but you were there. So I was like, all right, this will be cool. At least there's a homie here with us.
Where was that? You guys did this one weird show in like Benson, Illinois or something. Was that what it's called? Way the fuck Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember this? It's like right outside of St. Louis, maybe?
Yeah, I think that was our little like random weekend.
Yeah, it was a random weekend.
Was that with Meatwave?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember that show, but I consider it one of my crazier like show times, just personally, because there was like, so it was like a small bar and relatively small crowd. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's like 20 people there or something.
Right.
And somebody kept crowd surfing.
Yes.
And they were really just killing the vibe. I mean, because before that, everybody's dancing. We're having a great time. Then somebody tries crowd surfing and really they're just kicking everyone in the head for a minute. And it really broke everything up. So they kind of pissed me off because they were doing that. And then they got up on the bar and tried to jump onto everybody.
Oh, see, I don't remember that.
I remember this because the story continues. So they stood up on the bar, jumped onto everybody, which at that point was like 4 people because they'd already killed the crowd. One of those people was me, and they smashed me to the ground.
Oh, no.
A minute later, they try and get back up crowd surfing again. And so I pulled them down from crowd surfing to the ground, and I was kind of aggro because obviously y'all are my favorite band, and I was really trying to rock out, and your days were numbered at that time, I feel like.
Yes, for sure.
So I pulled this man down, and I yelled in his face, and I told him to stay down.
Yeah.
And come to find out, that was in fact the owner of the bar. And not only that, but so I was traveling at that point because I just had come to see you guys play. And so I was like, wherever you guys are staying, can I just stay there too? And you were like, yeah, whatever. Ended up staying at his house.
Not awkward at all.
Yeah.
Then you went to his bed. You went to his room and you said, "Stay down in bed. Don't you get up."
It was just really awkward. And then in the morning, you guys had to leave because you were going to like Iowa City or something. Like you were going
that sounds right.
far away. And his like girlfriend or wife or whatever insisted on making breakfast and was like taking a really long time making breakfast.
That does sound familiar.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And then when we finally figured out what she was making, it was like sausage, biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
And like 4 out of 5 of us were vegetarian.
Yeah, that did like twinkle a little memory in my head. Yeah.
So it was just such like a wild like catastrophe of events.
Yep. Well, that basically describes the band. Just a wild catastrophe of events. So it's pretty par for the course. Yeah.
I just think that was pretty funny.
Yeah. But again, that's like that's not like, oh, that only happened once, or that was a fun time that happened. It's like that's just like another time that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were there, and at least I'm glad you were there, because I feel the older I get, the worse my memory is. Just ultimately, it's just dive bombing so hard. So I'm glad there's people like you to remind me of stories like those.
Dude, I have so many memories at you guys' shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite show ever, I say, was one of you guys' shows.
Yeah.
At Beat Kitchen, one of your quote unquote final shows.
Listen, I leave it open ended, you know. You never know about me. I keep it a mystery.
Or it's also funny because you have a cursive tattoo on your arm, a big cursive tattoo, right?
I do.
There was one time that we were at what's that place in Logan? That's right on the corner. It used to be all ages. Can't remember. Anyway. So you guys were playing this place, and the guy from Cursive came in, and then you got all shy because of your tattoo, and you said, "I hope he doesn't see my tattoo."
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's a little scary to me, because I've like these other stories. I'm like, oh yeah. This I have zero recollection of, so that actually concerns me a little bit.
The guy from Cursive came, and you were like, "Oh gosh, I have this big tattoo. That's so embarrassing." But it's kind of funny now. Because I now have a big Dr. Manhattan tattoo on my arm, and here I am with you.
See? Life is cyclical. It's all a circle.
Yeah.
But you have no reason to be embarrassed, because we're friends. And the guy from Cursive has no idea who I am.
And in a way, sometimes that makes it more embarrassing. Mm-hmm. I don't have the luxury of anonymity.
Fair. That's fair.
But it is one of my sickest tattoos, so I don't know. What do you do?
I appreciate we appreciate you for many reasons, that being one of them.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about your relationship with movies. So you famously have 2 tiny children, and therefore not a ton of time to be watching all kinds of movies.
Sure.
Did you have a much of a relationship with film before the children?
Yeah. I'd say, being a kid of the Midwest, most of my hours were spent in front of either Ghostbusters or Beetlejuice or, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 90s classics. But I've always either been a fan of movies and like not getting like super deep into the indies, but usually just like the main fare. But then I would be around people or surrounded by people who were big movie buffs, and that started to get me into, more interesting, pushing the boundaries kind of movies. So it's been like, to your point, recently it hasn't been as much of that, but like for years I've always tried to be, in the ballpark of, it's usually about 6 months to a year after the thing happens, and then I'll be like, all right, let's finally watch that. So I don't have my finger on the pulse, but I'm trying. I'm putting in that effort. Yeah. So it's always been in the ballpark. And my for work I edit videos. So like in my mind I'm like pretending that I'm doing some sort of grandiose editing a film when really I'm like putting together an insurance video that 3 people are going to see. So, it's, we all have high hopes. We all have high hopes, Kayla.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved.
So you consider yourself a filmmaker now.
Yes. If you could actually change my title in the podcast to filmmaker, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah.
Love movies. Love a good movie.
And are you starting a movie podcast? Is that still happening?
Or
has it started?
It has not started yet. So January 3rd, we're going to drop the first episode. It's called We Thought This Was Good? ? So a friend of mine who's also a dad, basically we, text or message and would always just be like, here's this god-awful kids movie I watched this weekend, or here's the one that, Little Mermaid 5, or like we would just be back and forth talking about these movies. And then it was just like in a casual conversation, everyone I think makes your own memories and your own nostalgia, like, oh, well, that was the best of anything. And so we were like, well, maybe these movies we liked were also horrible.
Yeah.
So then we bat around the idea of like, that'd be a funny podcast, kind of work our way through old movies that we used to love when we were little and just see if they hold up, if they're horribly problematic, like what, like in today's age, if this movie, like if it is good or not. So we've recorded a few so far, and it's been fun. It's interesting to see like the ones that I go in thinking, oh yeah, this is definitely going to hold up, definitely doesn't. Yeah. And then vice versa, where I'm like, this is going to be horrible. And I was like, actually, this is a pretty still solid movie and like not a lot of problems with it. So yeah, beginning of the year, we thought this was good. If you're into little 90s movie nostalgia, you can come along for a ride and hear two grumpy dads talk about how
if you're also a dad in your 30s.
Yes, we're looking for a niche market. No, for all us 80s and 90s kids, we're gonna try to really dive deep into those movies you grew up on to see if they're still good or if they're just god awful.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Well, that'll be sick. And so the movie you picked for today, and you did pick this movie, is the 2016 film Hunt for the Wilderpeople. Yes. Or do you say Wilderpeople?
I was wondering how you were going to pronounce it.
And I went Wilder, but I think it's Wilder.
Well, because when you see Wild right there, yeah, that's
I know, I saw Wild first. Me and Nick talked about pre-recording that I've taken a considerable amount of anti-congestion medicine, so...
So this is going to get wild.
As this goes on, might be able to read a little
here.
less and less. I also am not wearing my glasses. I just
Excellent.
realized. Wow, much clearer now.
Let's go.
Okay. So this is sort of a family movie. Did you watch this with your family or no?
So I watched it with my wife, Jen. We actually
wife
loved
brag.
it. Wife brag, name drop. Yeah, we loved it. I'm now, and I'll absolutely botch his name, but Taika Waititi. Mm-hmm. We had just started kind of like tiptoeing into his movies. So watched Jojo Rabbit, and then I'm not sure how we even heard of this. I think it was just like popped on Netflix one night and it came on as like a preview, and even like the preview of it felt like one of his movies. I was like, this kind of feels like it's one of his movies, and then I think we just looked and we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So we popped it on, and we absolutely loved it.
So you had seen this before you picked it for the pod?
I had, yes.
Yeah.
And
okay.
When I saw it on the list of movies, I was like, I really loved it. So I was like, you know what? Okay, I want to see what your thoughts are. And I was like, I want to get someone else's opinion, see if it holds up.
Okay. I actually was not that familiar with Taika Waititi's work. I don't think. I mean, like, I'm aware of him as being, generally a celeb, I guess. Yeah. But like, I haven't watched, I don't think, like, maybe anything else he's in, or very little, if anything. I haven't watched anything else he's directed, for sure.
Okay. So you haven't seen Jojo Rabbit?
I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit. It's been on my list. I just haven't made my way to it. He also does What We Do in the Shadows, I think is what kind of boosted him into big fame. Yeah.
And I think originally, I don't ever see his name credited with The Flight of the Conchords, but it's definitely like they're all homies, and it's like the same comedy sensibility. So it feels like,
I think he directed a couple episodes.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I don't think he was, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, but I don't think he was in it. I think he just directed a couple.
Yeah.
I did watch like a couple episodes of the show of What We Do in the Shadows.
What did you make of that?
It didn't stick with me. It didn't catch me. And I feel like maybe I'll catch some grief for that, because I know so many people who are like, this is the best show, like it's the funniest thing I've ever seen, but it just didn't catch me, so I don't
disagree
know.
with that. There's been a couple times we've taken a crack at it, and I was like, there's a big part of me that would really like this, and it's just not, like, I don't know if it's like some of those shows.
The premise seems fun, like it
feels like it's there.
Be fun, but
I'm with you there.
I don't know. It didn't catch me. Okay, so So Taika Waititi adapted this from a book, and so kind of wrote it and directed this, and also has a cameo. As far as the other cast in this, we have Julian Dennison, who is in Deadpool 2, Godzilla vs. Kong. Rachel House, who plays the welfare lady, was in Moana, or did a voice for it anyway.
See, that was the thing. When we watched it, I heard her voice, and it like rattled my brain. I was like, what is this voice from? And I couldn't figure it out until I searched and saw. But
yeah, Moana. She's in Thor Ragnarok, which I think did Taika write? He directed that? Okay, so I did see that. And she's also in the new Cowboy Bebop show that's now canceled, I think.
I was going to say, I think that might be done now. Ooh, Sorry, John. Joe.
R.I.P. And then Sam Neill, famously from Jurassic Park, and Rhys Darby of Flight of the Conchords, who we previously mentioned.
Another excellent cameo, which on the second watch of this, I forgot he was in it. And then when I heard his voice, I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Brought me so much joy.
We've also done another movie that he's in on the pod, which was Guns Akimbo, which we did with Chris Sutter from Meatwave.
See,
previously mentioned.
Damn circle. I'll have to listen to that one because I haven't seen that movie, so I would love to know how that was.
It's a great up, I think, even if you haven't seen the movie, to listen to, because Chris is very funny.
Yeah. Yes, agreed.
All right, and then critic scores. This has crazy critic scores. 97 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
And 93 from Google users. So, like, very high critic scores.
Yeah. I didn't realize... I didn't look that up. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we can watch the trailer and then we can get into it.
All right.
You're over here cracking up during this trailer.
Oh, man. So good.
Just having a great time, huh?
Yeah, just having a hoot. All
right. So this is obviously a New Zealander film.
Love it.
Do you call it a Kiwi film?
There's something about that accent that just, like, I'm in. Whatever. Okay, fine. I'll watch it. And I'm just listening to that accent that'll buy me, like, at least 30 minutes. Yeah. And most of the actors in this film are Maori Indigenous New Zealand people. Yeah. So that's pretty sick as far as representation goes. Feels real. It doesn't feel like they shot it in front of a green screen. It feels it's the real deal.
Yeah, and they're out in the damn country in New Zealand, too. Gorgeous out there.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is based on a book called Wild Pork and Watercress by Barry Crump. What a name.
Love it already.
I wish my name was Barry Crump.
I will herefore to refer to you as Barry Crump.
Hell yeah. Mr. Crump if you're nasty. I guess this is like a famous New Zealand book. Like a lot of New Zealand kids kind of grow up reading this, or at least people that are Taika's age. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So where do we start with this? We've got a kid who's a foster child who is being delivered to a new family. And this kid, as they say, is a bad egg. You do it.
A bad egg?
A bad egg.
Bit of a bad egg. I should have worked on my New Zealand accent a little bit more.
Yeah, you should have practiced it.
A bad egg.
Rachel House, who plays the child welfare chick in this movie, is actually adopted in real life, too. So I just thought that was kind of a wild fact that she's playing this person. So this boy rocks, first of all, just as an actor. He has such a personality. Yeah. But they introduce his character as a sort of Hellraiser or a bad egg. So they say that he's, this sort of like Hellraiser kid, but we never really see that from him in the movie, I don't think.
No.
Which is interesting. He's always just kind of like a goofy, like bombling kid having a great time dancing, playing.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that, really. They kind of just show the footage, set him up, but he's not like running off and doing any of that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I also, pros and cons on chubby kid representation. So as a former chubby kid myself, always happy to see chubby kid representation, but they constantly kind of bully him for it in this movie.
Yeah, right out the gate. Auntie barrels him twice. I wrote that down. I was like, oh, right out the gate. Oh, and again. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well.
So I didn't love that, maybe.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, and I think the first time that I did watch this, once that was set up the first couple times, I was like, oh man, they're really going to like drive this home the whole movie. But I think that was, aside from those first two like pokes at him to try to like
they did like one other time.
Okay, so that I missed that one because I only saw remembered those two, and I was like, okay, I mean, I guess they let off of it after that point, but I guess that was a way of breaking the ice, maybe. I don't know. It didn't seem to work.
They were negging him. Meet your new mom. Hey, fat ass. Like,
welcome home.
Yeah, are you hungry? Yeah, exactly. I know you are. Look at you. Is like basically what she says.
Yeah. Not great. Not
a great like intro to your new family.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
In the movie, too, the new parents, I guess, ask him to call them aunt and uncle. Mm-hmm. But in the book, I guess the person who plays the aunt, is actually his blood relative aunt in the book.
Oh, okay.
I don't understand why they would make that change for the movie.
Yeah.
What that would change for the story for them if she would have just stayed as blood aunt.
But in the book, the uncle is not.
Well, like they're married, so only
it.
one's related by blood.
Sure.
You know, if both were related by blood, we might have a problem.
Yeah, might be a different movie. That's true. Yeah. I'm curious why they did that too. I was trying to think if it was like it makes it harder for him, but I don't know why. Yeah, it seems like it's the same or a very similar movie. So yeah. I'd be curious to know that.
Just an odd choice, I guess.
Yeah.
The only like minimal hell raising even that he does, I think, is at the beginning. He keeps trying to run away, but it's kind of cute.
And the aunt's in for it.
Yeah.
She's like, go ahead, you can run away. Just come back for breakfast.
Yeah. They
she's on board.
quickly establish like a really cute relationship.
Yeah. I wrote down, aside from her couple of pokes in the beginning, I was like, absolutely love the aunt. Like she's just a delight. And really what brought Jen and I into watching this the first time is in the Netflix trailer. It's just her playing the song, the Ricky Baker song. And I was like, what is this? Like, I love this song and I want to know what this movie is. And so like that song just would keep getting stuck in my head. And still even now, like it's so good. And she's, I love her.
The song does rock.
There's great music in this movie, like you said.
Yeah. And she is, I think, one of the most like interesting and dynamic characters in the film. Yeah. Unfortunately, they kill her instantly. Pretty much.
Yes. And that was actually, like I said, I've seen this one before and I forgot about that. Like I forgot that they was even, so it even caught me off guard a second time and I was like, oh. But in other Taika fare, he is known to kind of rip your heart out a little bit in that way. So, when you start
he
going down.
He loves killing women.
Not necessarily that it's women, but that it is just like, here's someone you fall for that you absolutely love. Now here's your heart given to you on a platter. Like it,
and probably
it's, like
it's a woman. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But they didn't even. So I was upset that her character died, but it wasn't played emotionally in any way. Like it's very. You don't even know what happens. Kind of. Yeah. Like the boy just comes home and she's like laying on the grass, and the dad's like, "Oh no." And then it's like over, move on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's one of those things where you're talking about it now and I didn't even like think about it twice because I was just like so sad over her being killed. I'm just like, I'm not even asking that question. I'm just like, why is she dead? But that's true. They don't even really touch on it. I just kind of keep it moving.
Yeah, because they had her and the boy had established quite a cute relationship, and they kind of made it clear that he had kind of been tossed around family to family. He's kind of not finding his people. Right. And this woman finally was like, I love you, and I don't care if you run away or you are a stinker. Yeah. I'm in fact maybe even more of a stinker.
This should be the tagline of the movie. One stinker meets another stinker.
Yeah.
A few stinkers go on an adventure.
What was the tagline for this movie? I wrote it down. Nature just got gangster. Interesting. But she in many ways is even more gangster, quote unquote.
For sure.
Than he is. Mm-hmm. She was like picking out the fur from dead animals and
no problem.
Stabbed a pig with her own hands. A wild boar.
She was baller for sure.
Yeah, baller. Yeah. We love to use these words.
I'm not dating myself at all by using this nomenclature.
Teens, at us with cooler words, please.
See you on TikTok, kids.
Tweet me. Please give me a better word to use. So yeah, in many ways she was more baller. But unfortunately they killed the ballerest of them all.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Rest in peace to the baller.
Yeah, R.I.P. Her husband, who was left after this, famously was a stinker. So we had this this goofy, silly, hardcore woman and this stinker of a man who just is like a sourpuss, never any fun. And you hate to see it. I mean, couldn't she have gotten like a fun husband,
Well, then what is that movie? That movie ends far too soon. The two of them are getting along immediately. There's no work put in. You need to have the stinker.
You can have a fun husband who's jealous.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
All right.
I just wish I want better for her,
Yeah. That's fair. And that's fair. And you see the version of him later on that you're like, his cold, hard exterior has now softened, and he's ready to be silly. He's ready to have some fun, and it's all she didn't.
He's
get
ready
to. Enjoy
to.
the silly
He never
side.
gets to, but he was ready to think about it. So her funeral, that's when we get the cameo from Taika as the funeral director, the goofy funeral director, telling an insane story.
Guess what's on the other side of the door? Another door.
Apparently all of that was based on a real funeral that he experienced, like a real eulogy at a funeral. Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah. I guess that was like part of the reason why he chose to play that character specifically, was because he had this memory and he really wanted it to match that memory.
That's why this kind of movie really resonates, I think. I mean, but to your point, it's got like 90+% ratings. Mm-hmm. It's like it's not like a movie like, oh, I'm watching Taika play a person or the dad play or Sam Neill play a person. Like those just feel like real people you're watching. It's like a documentary of just these people. So it rings so true that there's this pastor that's just absolutely out of his mind telling this story at a eulogy. Like, yeah, it works so well.
And who knows? I mean, they mentioned several times that they are in the bush or near the bush. Mm-hmm. Goals. Mm-hmm. In New Zealand, where, quote unquote crazy bush people live. And just seems like, what would you compare that to? I don't know. It's like a lawless land. Mm-hmm. Wilderness.
Or I mean, they're the crazy people. You got Psycho Sam.
True.
Like, yeah, they're
true.
They're all out
and
there.
He's a bushman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally in one point.
Right. You're so right. It hit me in a couple different. Hit me with a few laughs. That's good.
Yeah. So being in the bush, they maybe encounter other crazy people, including this weird pastor. Mm-hmm. Everyone out here is kind of a little unhinged, I guess.
Yeah.
So after she dies, the child welfare people send a letter saying that they're just going to take the kid back because the mom died, ?
Right.
I don't know where all the logic is in this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the agreement is based upon there needs to be both parents in the situation. Yeah, I mean, my legalese on adoption and my background in that field is not it's not as deep as you would think. So I'm not sure if it rings true, but.
I mean, you went to college. Come on, pull it up, pull it up.
Yep. Pull up my diploma. Let me look at it. Yeah.
You didn't take one law class?
I don't know how it happened. Not a single one.
Useless degree. Yeah, so the kid, feeling home for the first time, as we said, says, F that, I'm not doing that, fakes his own death, sort of.
Perfectly.
Yeah, perfectly, flawlessly. He makes a dummy that you would make of yourself, like they do in movies when kids are trying to sneak out and they put one in their bed to make their parents think they're still there.
Yep.
So a similar type of dummy of himself. Writes a suicide note saying something like, I lit myself on fire, evidence of me being lit on fire inside this barn. But then obviously the whole barn goes aflame.
Yeah.
So
a little backfire.
Literally.
Damn you.
You're setting them up.
On top of your game.
Thank you. I don't know how it happened, but it turns out I'm on top of my game.
Excellent. No notes for you.
So the whole barn lights on fire. He takes off into the jungle, aka bush, with Tupac. His dog, Tupac, because he's famously, quote-unquote, gangster.
Just a really cool rapper and my best friend.
So, of course, he instantly gets lost in the woods. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you call him dad or do you call him uncle? Because my notes all say dad, I'm going to be honest. But
yeah, that's fine.
I
know who you're referencing. I will say that first time that he runs away and they show him in the field with his hoodie zipped all the way up, that absolutely killed me. I laughed so hard.
That was very funny. Yeah, the hoodie that zips all the way up over the whole face and everything. Yeah.
It's so good.
And you know what? It looked cozy.
Yeah.
So I kind of want one of these hoodies.
Yeah. Have looking at swing by Hot Topic. They might have a few left.
I love having a stupid piece of clothing.
Yeah. It's like half my wardrobe. Useless.
I used to date someone who had a really stupid coat. And like it was like if you put the latch over the face, the whole hat part of it would just be like so high, like cone heads. You just look ridiculous. It was the puffiest jacket you've ever seen. And then if you tape up the face, you got this hat thing going on. So you just look crazy. So I bought the same coat that they had, the exact same one, and pranked them by showing up in it.
And what did they think about that?
Then we were coat people together.
See, people who are coat people together, they stay together.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we did not stay together. So.
Right. So that doesn't ring true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, but you know what? I don't know. We gave it the college try, I guess.
Yeah.
So the dad/uncle, we're gonna go. Whatever one comes out of my mouth, you know what I mean.
That's fair.
Dad finds him, and we get the dad can't read reveal.
Yeah.
That he is, in fact, illiterate. Sam Neill, who plays this dad, in real life has a BA in English literature, so it's kind of funny.
He's playing out of his league here. He did a good job.
Incredible actor.
Made
Someone with a BA in English literature pretending to be illiterate. I mean,
give him the award. Whatever the award
Oscar.
is, give it to him. That's it.
The kid kind of drags him for being illiterate, and they have a little bit of a fight where the dad tries to lunge at the boy and like breaks his foot. So now they're like in the middle of the woods. Dad's got a broken foot, and they're gonna have to camp out for a while. So this becomes a classic Two Guys in the Woods film. Sure. The child services people, they are hunting these two men.
They're hunting the wilder people.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's so fun though. It's so fun because it's like there's not anyone in the movie that I didn't enjoy being on screen at any point. Like everyone is just so silly. Even though there are like serious heartfelt moments, there's just so many like goofy ones that make up for any sort of evil that I would think a person should have as the bad guy or the bad girl. It was just, everyone's so good.
Yeah. They're goofs.
Yeah, just a bunch of goofs.
We have this classic, like, lineage of the dad and boy were kind of butting heads at first. The dad never wanted a kid. He's kind of like a get away from me, leave me alone type guy. Yeah. You're an idiot little kid. Little runt even. Yeah. But, after a while, they start to grow on each other. Tale as old as time. Sure. Dad breaks his foot, and then it's kind of like, anyway, 6 weeks later. Okay. At that point, the boy tries to teach the dad how to do haikus to process his trauma, which is something he learned, I guess. But imagine learning how to do haikus before you know how to read.
Again, another thing that you're making me think about that I did not consider when I watched this movie. Yeah, that is wild. And it comes into play later, too, as another heartfelt moment. So something to think about. That's giving me something to think about.
So what I'm hearing is you sort of let this movie just glaze over you. Not a thought in the head, not a care in the world.
That's how I'm going to go through life. I was enamored so much by the,
you
setting and the people.
You were dissociating on the couch.
I was just, closing my eyes and meditating that I was a part of this world. And then I was like, oh, I guess I watched a movie. Fine. All right. But I wasn't picking up on these lapses in time. It just felt like it was all kind of linear. I wasn't picking up on these big gaps. So wrong on me.
Yeah. So they're learning haikus, they're bonding, etc. They find, what do you call that spot? Like a shed?
Yeah, it's I don't know what you'd call it. It's like a share, like a co-op,
like a shit. Is that what you're gonna say?
No, I was trying to think of a shared. Shed, a shred, a shree shed. A place that people can just go and sleep if they need a place to sleep out in the middle of nowhere.
This might be I don't know. Do those things exist in America? Because I've seen them. Yeah. No, right?
Yeah. That feels like something that's a New Zealand thing or outside the States. Yeah.
Well, because we did a Scottish movie too, Under the Skin, and that also had one of these kind of places in Scotland. So I'm thinking this is a not American thing, but it seems to be fairly commonplace outside of here.
Yeah, they weren't surprised by it. They're like, all right, sweet. Here's one of these places. Let's go.
Yeah, and they just pop in.
Yeah.
And inside, though, they do find newspaper clippings of wanted these two people, and it's them.
Yeah.
This is like intercut with like news reports, sort of. And all of the news presenters throughout the movie are actual news people in real life. So,
wow. See?
I thought that was
another nice little Easter egg. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So while they're in this cabin, or whatever you call it, some Hellraiser hunter guys find them. They try to explain what had happened about the foot and everything, but the boy explains it using, I don't know, the way he phrases it makes it seem like the dad is a pedophile.
Yes, and all the other hunters are basically everyone else in the room except him realizes it, and it's only getting worse before it gets better. Like the more he explains it,
because he's a child and he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He's saying like, oh, he made me do stuff, and I don't know. It carries on from there. I didn't love this bit, to be honest. Yeah. You're dying laughing. You're loving it.
I could see why you would not like it, or why a person wouldn't like it. I mean, on the face of it, as you're explaining, it's one of those jokes when you start to explain it, you're like, okay, now explaining this joke, it doesn't sound great. But yes, I get where you're coming from there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just...
You see my point, but you disagree.
No, I don't fully disagree. I think I laughed at it, but it's more so just like, it just seems like a
so
standard
you're admitting
trope.
To being problematic.
I mean, listen, we're all works in progress. It just felt like a standard, like old trope of like an adult explaining, or an adult and a kid completely misunderstanding each other. But it's not a great premise. You don't want to laugh at pedophilia necessarily. It's not a great joke, but it's more just listening to him talk and like everyone's reaction and it getting worse before it gets better. But the premise is not great.
Yeah, it's cheap maybe. So I didn't love it. Nick thought it was hilarious, and then we move on to
wow, just selling me, just push me down the creek. There you go. See you later, my friend.
Oh, we're just having fun here. Later, we also find out, so the dad obviously is not a pedophile, but what he is, or has been convicted of, is manslaughter.
Yeah, so, just a little note. No big deal. Just
randomly drops like, oh, I've been to prison for manslaughter. Anyway, yes. But like, if that was the case, like, they would never have given him a child, right?
Fair. Yeah. It feels a little... It feels a little like it's got some holes in it at that point. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which may be part of the reason why he's like, I am out of here. But yeah, in the beginning, it probably does. The whole story kind of falls apart.
Yeah, I think a lot of this, maybe like if you think about it too hard, probably falls apart.
Well, how old is the book? I didn't even look into like the book itself. If it's like, is this just one of those things where it's based off of old, kind of, to your point, like old jokes that still don't fly, old like premises that don't really get fleshed out? Like that's what I'd be curious to find out.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. 86. So okay. Like a little old, but like not that old.
Yeah.
Not that old, okay?
but listen, as time is a flat circle as well. As I've been unpacking some older movies from the 80s and 90s, it's not that long ago, and a lot of these movies really don't hold up.
In terms of comedy, especially.
Yeah.
I've tried to rewatch some comedies that I loved from the 90s, and boy, some of them are so tough to look at.
Yeah. I grew up like infatuated with John Hughes movies, and some of those rewatches, either entire premises, full jokes, long duck dong. There's parts of it there's like, okay. Maybe I just need to keep that in the back of my head and leave it there instead of revisiting some of these things, because I'm going to have to unpack that this is not a good thing anymore. I don't like this anymore. My childhood is a lie.
Yeah. Even like I tried to rewatch Mr. Show not that long ago.
Oh, okay.
And like Mr. Show, one of the most like renowned comedy things, at least in like alt comedy sense. Something that I remember adoring, right? God, I could barely make it through any episodes. They're all like homophobic gay jokes and like sexist jokes and rape jokes.
I don't think comedy as like it's just like a blanket statement, but like stand up, especially when you listen to old stand up albums. I mean, even people, because that just was at that time, that was like an easy joke to make, or those were easy jokes to make. But like even like on Shuffle, I'll hear like Patton Oswalt, even his older stuff, someone's like now would never dare to think to make that joke, but then just like laying into jokes like that. So it's like, damn, like, yeah, some going down memory lane on so many things is like, oh, it can be so rough.
It was really hard. Yeah. And I don't think like that they had bad intentions. No. Like, I don't think they were like homophobic people or anything like that. But God, it's really tough to listen to. I stopped watching because I was like, if I keep watching this, I'm going to hate the show. Yeah. Yeah. It was really hard.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's some comedy, stand-up comedy, but comedy it's hard for it all to age well. There's some things you go back on. It can be rough. It can be a rough revisit.
Yeah. So this being from the 80s maybe could be that some of that transferred in.
Yeah.
We don't know.
But it's a movie. You said it came out in 2016, 2017. So
2016, yeah. So
you got like 30 years of time to update or go in and revisit. So
But Taika Waititi did a lot of writing for this too. Mm-hmm. So I don't want him to be able to get away scot-free if he's making bad jokes either.
Sure. No, I don't disagree. This to me is that old adage of like separating the art from the artist. Like, can you do it? Are you willing to do it? Is it ever okay to do it? Like I'm guilty of it here. I have a brand new tattoo on the back of my arm that now feels horrible.
Yeah.
Because of what that singer did. So it's like, I never see it. It's on the back of my arm. I always forget about it. And then someone will see it and remind me. And I'm like, yeah, that's not great. So it's this thing of like,
you're also dealing with being canceled.
I myself am a canceled man, and this is my redemption story.
This is your
and
confession.
I'm glad you're a part of it. Yeah. No, it's. I think that's a really like. It's always an interesting. So
you relate to Taika in that sense because you're both canceled.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's fine. It feels good. It feels good to have to know your people, to have a community.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. Just thinking about art versus artist, and to your point, like I don't think you get away making bad off-color jokes, whatever the case is. I think if to that point those people talked and said, that was not cool, that doesn't fly, like make an apology or make amends with it. It's worse when you get the other side, which is like, well, and makes excuses or says, that was just the time, or I don't understand why people are getting so offended. That to me is a whole other thing. But but watching something old that has jokes or has premises that are rough to watch in a more updated time, but then also coupling that with, is that creator okay with that? Do they justify it, or do they say, like, if I remade this, I wouldn't have, that'd be something I cut. So yeah, it's that in itself is I wonder what he would say about that. I wonder if there's any like interviews that touch on that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. It was hard to find even that many interviews about this from Taika. All the interviews I did find, from Taika. So I don't know about the author of the book. That's a separate thing. But almost all the interviews I found that were with Taika for this movie were like, I was really trying to get Taika. Unfortunately, he could only talk to me on the phone for 5 minutes. So here's what we got.
Got
it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know that it was this movie, because I think this won some like indie movie, some awards, and was, to your point, had this like high ratings. But then after that, like his star kind of shot up between What We Do in the Shadows, and then all of a sudden he's directing Marvel movies. So yeah, that kind of lines up. I think that makes sense.
That he was just too busy.
Just too busy. Too busy to be canceled.
Yeah. Another thing I didn't love was, we've kind of already joked about it a little, but like the gangster, like quote unquote thug aspect to this movie too, or to the character of the kid. We see some of the news clips they show are really leaning into that, like, this kid is a thug, a heathen, like, he robs and sets fires, like, and they kind of play it for comedy, but, it is a real bias that, like, actually hurts people, and even just as far as, like, his character goes, like, they only mention, like, a couple times throughout the movie that he, what would be the word, like, idolizes or wants to be some sort of like quote unquote gangster. Yeah. What does he say? Scucks?
Yeah. Scucks. And that was a term meant to look up, but I assume that was just like, yeah, like being in a gang or being a gang member, or like being.
He says, we didn't choose the Skunk's life. The Skunk's life chose us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like, it's specifically like a Maori Islander boy, a youth, a teen or a young adult, sort of hellraiser, I think is kind of what it means. But he like names his dog Tupac. He talks about his cool shoes. But other than that, it's like either go harder or just don't do that at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It like was only mentioned a little bit. The media bias, I'm not a fan of either way. But if you're going to give this kid, and even making the tag to the movie, whatever I said it was, the Bush just got gangster or something, whatever it was.
So you think that, because even on the face of
his character is confusing, I think is what I'm really saying.
Okay. So you don't think that's like everyone misunderstanding him? They're assuming this stuff about him, but really he's not. You think that's like a choice the movie made and didn't like follow through with it? Okay.
It's kind of both, because in the end, like, you know, I guess like the message is, oh, he's actually a sweet kid who was just misunderstood. But like he does self-identify that way as well. Yeah. You know, to some extent. Yeah.
And I think part of that's probably just like a defense mechanism. Yeah. Like he's truly a little deep down. I mean, you see it with him and the aunt that he's a little sweetie and wants to just have a nice place to be, but being tossed around all these homes, like I think, that just makes him fall back into this, be tough and do graffiti and spit off the overpass and all this stuff. So,
but even at the beginning, like the only inkling that we even get, if they had not said out loud, this kid is a hellraiser and he has this history, you would not get that from his character in any way. Yeah. You know? Like,
yeah, that's true. So you would have wanted more hell raising.
Yeah. He doesn't give any pushback at all besides the like running out the door. He's instantly soft.
Yeah. Well, and towards the end, Sam Neill trying to be like, hey, let's stop this. And he's just like, no. Like, like, I don't know if that's him falling back into that again, just being like, sorry, like this is this is just who I am. Like this is who I want to be, or the kind of person I want to be portrayed as. But yeah, that's I wonder if in the book that's one of those things that's like,
I doubt his character was gangster in the book.
Well, but something that you have more time to flesh out some of that in a book versus, you know, a hour 41 movie where it's like, all right, gangster, let's get to the rest, like let's get to the thing that like drives. I wonder if that, again, if that's lining up with the book, or if that's just a choice they made to translate to the movie.
Yeah, I still think they could have either leave it or do it. Commit or quit. Yeah, there's a rhyme
that's
for
fair.
you.
Yeah,
I'm working on my haikus.
Put that on a shirt. I'd buy that shirt. ScreenVomit, commit or quit.
Yeah. I don't know. He just always seems like nice, goofy kid. Yeah. And not a gangster to me. Sorry, poser.
Pick a different rapper. Tupac's played out. Let's know your work. Know your history. Yeah.
So eventually they do make it to another cabin where there's like a guy dying inside.
Yeah, he's in the middle of death. He looks like he's dead when they show up. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to get him some help. So the kid goes off on his own to find a bush person. They're in the middle of nowhere, and he's just like, follow some trail. You'll make it to bush people. Yeah, you'll get there. That was a funny moment. I did think about that. Where I was like, because I guess that he just doesn't want to be around that guy. So I guess that's fair. But it's like your other option is to just wade into the unknown. It's like I'll stay with. I guess both aren't great options, but I'd feel more safe letting Sam Neill traverse the wild. Yeah, I'll hang in here. Yeah, but he does find a hot horse girl. So
also and the cool horse girl dad.
They do the famous like movie love look, like where
the like shampoo commercial.
Yeah. You know, she's like lit up in a halo, wagging her hair, and he's just like hearts in his eyes. But she does go to her house and call the cops. So
no one's perfect. Everyone's complicated. There's layers here. It's the onion. But her song that her and her dad sang it's so good. Their little duet that they sang. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was cute. And it lulls the boy right to sleep. Yeah. So that he accidentally stays the night. And then when he does get back to the cabin in the morning, it's surrounded by not only police, but all the child welfare people. Right. And I think from that point, the heat is like really on.
Yeah, it does step up a notch. Yeah.
Because we haven't really felt the police presence throughout the movie up until that point.
Right, and he's had Sam, he's had Uncle, he's had Dad, he's had Dunkle with him the whole time to kind of guide him, and now it's like, yeah, you're on your own now, you got to figure this out. So it really kicks up a notch.
And so at this point, we jump to ... 4 months later. Yeah, the time jumps just keep happening, and I think, I don't know, it's kind of crazy that the timeline of this movie is so expansive. It's so long. Sometimes just, like I said, zips forward with no warning.
Like you didn't feel like it was necessary to do that? You could have just kept it moving.
And I feel like not only do you lose like character development by just zipping all that time, but I think that we're losing a lot of like the day-to-day challenges of their environment, which is probably one of the more interesting things to think about when you're going to be putting characters in this environment, is how are they surviving, you know, and especially over that length of time. I think making it so long kind of ungrounds the movie for me. Like, it takes me out of it because I'm thinking there's no way they're eating that long. At some points, I mean, eventually we kind of montage into it's winter, it's snowing, and then we kind of montage back into spring again. So we've gone like over a year, it seems like. And
so to you, is this another like, pardon my French, another like shit or get off the pot kind of a thing? Like, it's like, if you're gonna like give us that amount of time, then really dive into it. Otherwise, like, don't like cut that out. Like, it doesn't serve anything for you.
I think it actually harms the story for me to go that long, because it also, like, are cops really going to chase them for this long?
Sure. That's like a year, because she says like one is 6 months, one's 4 months. It's probably like over a year this is all happening.
Yeah. And we go through, like I said, multiple seasonal changes. It's got to be over a year. There's no way that any like police force would put this much effort and time and money into one
Ricky
boy.
Baker.
One boy who, by the way, was like a lost to the system child.
Right.
He's not even like, he doesn't have parents looking for him, you know?
Right. So is it more of the, because you were talking about before how it's like they've got the news people, the media is there. Is it like that's driving it because now it's some murderer who has kidnapped a kid? Like they've created, they've kind of like driven this other narrative to like make it more interesting when really, it's a kid that like no one cares about, and then some guy that no one knows.
Well, yeah, but even with the added like falsified narrative of him being maybe like a dangerous criminal man who has like kidnapped this child, even then, like, how many children get kidnapped like all the time that have no active like police for? Imagine if we, you know, deployed this many police officers for a single child, a parentless child, even, you know, for a year, for all the time. They're just, it seems like they're just romping through this bush for the entire time, like on the ground,
just having a hoot.
Helicopters, like everything. And just how little character growth there is for that amount of time. They don't really change in any way except that they become more fond of each other, which could have happened in a week or a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's fair. So you think just the Kayla remake is cut all the like extra long time gaps that doesn't serve anything. Either really like dig your toes in and really get into some of this, or like skip it all together and just make this like a couple of weeks out in the woods. In the bush.
Because that's like, it's hard to be in those elements. Like, they are in the New Zealand wilderness, which is like real wilderness. There are wild boars. There are, you know, dangerous animals, dangerous environments. There is danger. And they don't have shelter, right? They don't have a tent. I don't think they have packs at all, do they? Or very, very little supplies, if any.
Yeah. They've each got a gun, and they kind of stumble upon some toilet paper now and then. Yeah, not a lot on them.
And that's it. So,
so what? Okay, all right, Kayla. So what you're saying is that you could. That I guess you're implying that you couldn't survive out in the bush for a year with a gun and some toilet paper. All right.
They don't have cooking utensils. They don't have fire starters.
All right.
They don't have
Okay.
shelter.
Maybe you can't, but listen, I am a wilder person. I identify as one of the wilder people in this community, and I would die. That's the thing too. When I think about this, I would be dead instantly. Like there'd be no like.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I would see one spider and literally have a heart attack to death. Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, please take me away. I don't. There's no reason for me to be out here. I'm him in the zipped up hoodie, just in the grass. Like I don't even make it like more than 100 feet from the house.
Yeah, and like all the walking they're doing, and we've already said he's not in shape, you know.
Yeah.
And he never gets any more in shape after living in the woods for a year.
Sam Neill absolutely obliterates his ankle as well. So yeah. Yeah, it's not going great out there. Yeah.
No. So yeah, I think just with a shortened timeline, this would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
A shortened timeline and more details, more plot.
So to you, the focusing on just the two of them, you want more of the other side of it. Like they're fine and well, but all this other stuff is just like their two characters aren't like doing it for you enough to like forego all the gaps. And all the like goofiness. Got it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Not enough.
That's fair.
They're fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with these two guys. Like the actors do a great job, etc. But like character wise, they're not given a lot.
Yeah, I can see that. And there are, of course, now trying to think of like one off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but there are definitely shows and movies like that where it's like really tough to suspend disbelief. Like even if the premise is good, it's like I can't get over A, B, and C to like even make myself like in this world to like enjoy it. So I've definitely been there before. So I see where you're coming from for this, because there are these little goofy parts that could be easily fixed or tweaked to like cut out or fix.
Yeah, and I think just like that ungrounds it a little. So like if it was shorter, it'd be more believable, and the cops would be more believable, and their lack of character development would be less obvious. Because it'd be a couple weeks, you know?
Yeah.
Their lack of body change would be less obvious because it'd be a couple weeks.
Sure.
It just like, that simple thing, that simple change could make a huge difference for this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
So that's my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. Again, I think this is one of those times where a movie like this could easily, to your point, get caught up and bogged in it, or I'm just like, I'm already along for the ride, so I'm not even here. This stuff is whizzing past me. So even this conversation is great because it's the stuff that I'm like, I'm looking over here while all this other stuff's happening. It's like, that's a totally different viewing experience. Like it makes the movie like a 93% probably doesn't make sense to you for this movie, or like it's like maybe like it's good, but damn, that seems pretty crazy to give it that. So
I was feeling like maybe I had some controversial takes on this film after seeing the
and you know what?
scores.
Even after this conversation, like I'm reeling it back a little bit myself. Yeah, because to that point, like I love the aunt Sam. Like I think they're all doing such a good job that I'm not even like worried about. Like I'm not even thinking about their stuff. I'm just like I just like these characters, these people, this idea. So like whatever, put them in here and place X doing Y. Like I'm not thinking about this stuff because I just want to see what happens to these people. Yeah. But to that point, I've definitely been the opposite of that in the movie. I've been like, this is bullshit. I'm not doing any of this. Turn it off. Like, so I'm with you. Yeah. Although I will say in the scene where the seasons are changing, I really enjoyed that like 360 shot where they're showing like the child welfare people, and then it's like the random cabin guys. It's like it just keeps spinning and it's showing them all kind of like looking off them. I just thought that was really cool.
And how they interrelate. There is like there is some cool cinematography in this, and like it does like it looks nice. Like it's well shot. Yeah.
Well, shooting in New Zealand, it's like those like the drone shots and these flower shots are just like
you can't really go
whatever.
wrong.
No, it's like all right, I'm in. Yeah, it looks beautiful. So
having a beautiful backdrop is half the battle. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing was that they find those hell-raising hunters that you mentioned after several months, also again in the bush.
Yeah. Again, don't see the problem with what you're saying. Keep it moving. I'm taking this all in stride.
And they take their guns and leave them with their tails between their legs again.
Outwitting everyone yet again.
Yeah.
So that they can continue their journey. Yeah.
Just a child and an old man outwitting everyone.
I'm not going to lie. This is all slightly blowing me away because I don't know how I missed out on all these time gaps. Like, and it flat out saying this is now 4 months and 6 months later. I must have perfectly looked away at those exact moments because this movie I treat it as like the premise you're saying, where it all is just like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to watch it a third time and be like, what the hell is this? Like, I totally did not see that.
Well, to your point, this movie also is like separated into chapters.
Yeah.
So like every so often a chapter title will come on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I found that a little distracting and I could have done without that at all. But I also, I guess, entirely missed chapter 1 and chapter 2 because I just saw chapter 3 pop up on the screen and I was like,
it was
what?
It was not an order. It was like chapter 3, chapter 9. Yeah. It was just kind of humming along. Yeah.
So maybe I just happened to look down at the same second that the chapter 1 and chapter 2 was on the screen. Like, I don't know. But I found the chapters element a little distracting as well. We could have done without that.
Do you ever, because that makes me think of like Royal Tenenbaums, that obviously this is not the first time it's happened. Do you ever see that in a movie or on a show and go like, yes, this is adding to it? Like, does it just feel like it's just something cute to do? Or is it like, do you feel like this is adding to this?
I can't think of a specific example at the moment where it works, but I think there are times when it works.
Okay.
There were a lot of chapters in this though, too. I don't remember exactly how many, but I feel like there was like 10 or something. Yeah. And that's a little excessive too, but...
Does it just feel like another thing that you don't need to have?
It's another thing you don't need to have. And I think that where having chapters, where it comes into being helpful to a story is when there is some like big shift going on.
Got it.
So it's like now this is like announcing that there's a shift about to happen, or so like something completely different might happen now in part 2 than what happened in part 1, or something along those lines. And in this movie, I felt like we were just having a natural progression, like no really like crazy shifts for most of it. And it's just a chapter showing up like every 20 seconds. Like they're walking this way. Now chapter 7, they're walking this way still, like
it's an exciting read, Kayla. It grips you.
I mean, I get that, maybe they wanted to tie it back to being a book or whatever, but I don't know. I could have done without the chapters is all.
I wonder, again, if he would redo this movie. Is this like an early movie where he's just kind of doing things that he thinks are good and cute and works? And if he looked at it again, would be like, I would cut all this. I would, like, this could go completely like when you listen back on like old music you made or whatever, you're like, that...
Nightmare.
Is a nightmare. Is my nightmare. Yeah. So it's like, I wonder if to that point, if similarly, if he would be like, no, this is great or perfect, or like no problems with it, or if he would have a bunch of stuff to say about it too.
I feel like most filmmakers I know, you get to a point where you just say, this is good enough and it has to get out of my hands.
Sure. I mean, I know musicians who are the same way, because you could sit and stare at something for your whole life and never put it out. So at a certain point, you do just have to be like, all right, here's the thing, like whether it's done or not.
This is good enough and it has to get away from me. I can't spend more time on this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Probably everyone would go back and make changes to anything creative they've done.
Yes. And even the things I'm currently creating, I would be changing mid-process. I'm going to be making a podcast and editing it as I'm doing it. It will never come out.
Yeah. You're thinking about stuff you're doing in the future and you're already editing that.
And I hate it. I hate it. I already hate it. Could do without it.
I talked to someone recently who's also a podcaster, and we were just having a conversation, and in our conversation he's like, well, if this was my podcast, I would have just edited out what I just said. And I'm like, that's insane.
When you hold that creative control over something, there's times where you wish you could go back just in normal life situations and be like, all right, let me cut this in and out. All right, let me just grab that out of there. Oh, look at this beautiful memory that doesn't have any of that in the middle. Like, it's so much better this way. I mean, I guess that's essentially Instagram and things like that. It's like, this is my edited life. Enjoy it. I'm not a nightmare, everyone, that you're aware of.
True. You know what? Great point. Yeah, around this area is where we get that wilderpeople line, where they're always on the move, they're always on the lookout for hunters, like a wildebeest, except they're people. Wilder people.
Wilder people.
Wilder people.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a wildebeest?
I can't say that I have. Aside from,
I know from a picture, you have some picture in your mind though of what it's like.
Yeah.
I feel like I would picture like the boar that they tackle or something similar to that. However, so because this thought occurred to me earlier today, I was like, I don't know that I've ever actually looked up what a wildebeest is, what it looks like. I have no idea. They're a vegetarian relative of the antelope.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking like warthog. Like,
I know.
like a horrible beast.
Why does warthog like come to mind? Because that's like the imagery that I conjure too when I think of like the term wildebeest.
Yeah.
But it's not at all like what they look like. They're like tall and skinny and have long heads like an antelope.
Again, you've spent the last hour and a half blowing my mind. Like you're just the walls are coming down around me.
My mind was also blown. I was like, I don't know why it's never occurred to me to like look up what this is. I don't know why like a wild boar or warthog or whatever you want to call it like is the image that comes to mind. Like where does that come from? Because we both have it, so it has to be from somewhere.
It's something.
But no, it's like this tall, scrawny creature.
Just eating veggies, just chilling.
Yeah. I just thought that was kind of weird when I actually looked that up. But speaking of wild boars, we do have a wild boar scene in here too, where a wild boar like attacks their dog.
Yeah, Zag.
Yeah. That was like one of the more intense scenes of the film, right?
Yeah. Like that and the earlier scene where the ant just like annihilates one of those things. Like like that in this scene, you're just like, damn. Like like you know it could be that and you're like, it like caught me off guard both times. Yeah.
Those things are scary.
Yeah.
The one that's in the middle of the movie, I don't know if the one in the beginning is the same, but was a mix of CGI and practical costuming. So it's like two guys in their Horsey style, like one guy's the head and one guy's the ass, like literally.
It's such a great Horsey style. That's good. That's
Horsey style. But you knew what I meant when I said it.
100%. There was no sarcasm in that. I loved that those are the words you chose. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Thank you. Apparently, I read a thing that said you can tell at one point because I think there's like a part where the dog bites his leg and he bends at the knee.
Oh, okay.
That's what I read, but I didn't go back and watch it again to see if that was true, so I don't know. But there might be a tell in there. Either way, this thing is scary as hell, and it almost pretty much murders the dog, and then it almost murders the dad, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the boy
thing's out of control.
Is gangster as hell and shoots it right between the eyes.
Yeah. Doesn't even move a step, just drops that thing. Yeah.
Hell yeah. But then they do have to actually kill the dog, so.
Yeah.
R.I.P. dog.
Yeah, R.I.P. Couple of RIPs throughout.
Yeah. Couple 2-3 RIPs. After that, some point is when we meet the Bushman himself, Psycho Sam.
Psycho Sam,
played by Rhys Darby. I love Sam. You also love Sam.
So good.
Yeah.
At 0 notes on Sam.
Yeah, 0 notes. I think he and the mom character from early in the movie, as you've said, the two best characters in this film, like hands down. Yeah, but also both only in this film for like a moment.
Yeah. This is one of those ones where the cameos, like, and even Taika as the pastor, like those, like you're seeing this whole movie with these two characters, but those little pop-ups, you're just like so enamored by them. Rhys Darby just, throwing 100 miles an hour, just absolutely. Killing his every part of the little bit that he's in this movie. Yeah, he's so good.
Absolutely. They make the movie. Like if they weren't there, this would be a shit movie.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think they're definitely they round this thing out. Yeah, and it's a shame to your point, like the ant biting the dust early on, like it makes them have to bond and have this story.
Literally biting it.
Yeah.
She was on the ground outside.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But sorry. It's out.
You keep trying to make points, and I just keep throwing you off.
I'm just enjoying that you're on top of your game, and I'm absolutely miles away.
I don't know what's happened to me. Somehow I've ended up on top of my game.
You're killing it. Yeah. The ant, the pastor, and Psycho Sam are definitely like the highlights in this movie. He's absolutely unhinged and just completely stealing it. Yeah, I love him in this.
He kicked ass. And I also think it's cool that they, along their journey, keep meeting people that are like, nah, man, I'm cool. I'm not going to call the cops. I'm cool.
Here come the cops. Yeah.
But Reese Darby actually doesn't call the cops.
Right.
He's one of these, he is an actual like off the grid bushman, wild man, literally bushman, as we said. He has a bush costume is how they meet him.
Yeah. The best. Yeah, he's a character of a human being. He's got the aluminum pots on the head. Like, yeah, he is out of his damn mind.
All of the conspiracies about the government and everything. Yeah. So eventually when they're out here living with Psycho Sam, the cops do close in on them, and they have to take his truck, which is named Crumpy, after Barry Crump, who wrote the book.
Oh, yeah. Now we're talking.
Yeah, so bringing it back to the book, this truck, an incredible truck. I mean, makes it through the woods, through the water. Like, they're basically driving in a river at certain points, and the truck's just trucking along.
Psycho Sam said it has 4-wheel drive and both the wheels and both the front 2 wheels. So this thing is ready to roll. Like, it hasn't started in God knows how long, but it's raring to go right out the jump.
Yeah, this is a jungle truck.
Yeah. Well, their only other option to get out of there quickly was a jetpack, according to Sam.
Yeah.
So you got to go with what's at your disposal, you know.
He does also try the tunnel to his underground bunker, but unfortunately has not dug that. I think all of the best comedy in this movie actually is credited to Reese Darby's character.
Yeah, he does. He does kill it. Yeah.
Everything I laughed at, I think, was part of his part.
Yeah, his whole scene is he's bonkers and he's great. Yeah.
Yeah. When they get in this truck, at a certain point, it's revealed exactly how many units are after them. And we've got tanks. We've got choppers. We've got cop cars, like, by the dozens. We've just got all kinds of people out here. The child welfare lady is somehow in a tank. Like, how did that happen? We don't know.
Don't understand why I have an issue with this, but keep going, I guess. All right.
And her, like, mall cop friend. I don't know like what the deal is with her friend, but she's constantly harasses him about not being a real cop, not having a gun, like, and I think he doesn't even have a taser. He said like his taser was checked out for the week or something like that. Yeah. All these people are after them, a real chase. They like pull up to the truck and are hollering at the dad to stop driving, and he's not even driving. The kid was driving.
It's a tense moment. People don't have their wits about them. They're just trying to get Ricky Baker back. That's, you know.
Yeah.
Sense. You don't have to have your fully make sense. You just got to get this kid to stop Crumpy.
The whole like literal army is out there, and they lose them in the bush for a moment, and the kid ends up flipping the truck with the dog in the back and everything. However, no one is hurt.
Completely realistic, yeah.
Or at least not physically, because in a moment the kid does get hurt emotionally because the dad character says that he's going to give him back because he can't keep running. He's old and he's tired. He's like... Yeah. His character's like 60 or 65 or something. They say it at one point, but I don't remember. Yeah. Which is like, it is kind of old to have like a 10-year-old.
I mean, he's been in the bush for a year. He's tired. I'm tired every day for doing nothing. So I identify with this character.
Imagine sleeping on the ground even once, let alone for a year. Even once in your 30s.
Yes. It sounds horrible. We did it once in our 20s on a tour. We're like, let's stay at a KOA. And I never did it again. I was like, please, let's not do this again. This was horrible.
It's very hard. I think when I think about, even just thinking about touring again, I'm like, I don't think I could sleep just everywhere on weird shit, on floors or on old, like, crazy couches like I used to.
No, it's definitely, you got to be young and you got to be willing to just put your body through whatever Taco Bell and whatever sleeping space.
Yeah, never mind the food. The amount of diarrhea I would simply have.
Yes. You're just absolutely putting your body to the limit in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
All to make that $20 at the door. It's all worth it.
If that sometimes.
That's a good payday. I have a distinct, specific memory of us driving. I think we were in the middle of some tour, and we literally gave each other $20, and you could have convinced us that it was $1,000 because we never gave ourselves money. It was like, $20 whole dollars.
Like literally, yeah.
We're in our 20s. Like, why? Like, this is, again, if this was a story, it'd be a bit ridiculous. Like, it's $20.
The most I ever made off of any show, well, the most would be like $100 that I had to split with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But the most off of like a really DIY show was like $70 for two
Mm-hmm.
people. So we still had to split that. But then after
Yeah.
gas and everything, then it's already gone. But but that was part of a 2-week tour. We made $70 on one show, and that was the most we made any night.
Follow your dreams, kids. It's all out there. It's all out there for you. God, that's the other thing. If I think about touring like now,
Yeah.
like if we were still in a band, we're like, all right, now let's do this all again. Like, oh my God, like that's a whole other space to consider on top of like, yeah, what you put your body through. But oof, good
Yeah.
times though. They were great.
Yeah.
They're fun.
I mean, great memories. But yeah.
Getting kicked in the head. Yeah.
It is great memories.
Yes,
I'm glad
of
that
course.
I have all the,
Absolutely.
show memories that I have and the traveling memories.
Definitely.
And the friends we made along the way, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
2, 3, 4.
but yeah, it does take a damn toll, and it's hard to do
Yeah.
as you get older. And
Yeah.
people like to joke about how people turn 30 or 35 or whatever and stop doing music because they're old, but it's really more of like the toll on your body than it is about
Yeah.
the rock and roll spirit.
Yeah. You really charge through those 20s with like no fear, like just put it to the limit. It's like now being in Sunday, I turned 37, and this is all my body's now paying all for those previous fun times. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it was fun.
And the amount of sleep I could live off of in my 20s versus the amount of sleep I can live off in my 30s,
Yeah.
two different stories.
It's two different. I mean, they say like every 7 years, like biologically our bodies change, like down to the cells in us. It makes sense because 7 years ago that would have been a whole other animal. Now it's like, please don't. Let's not and say we did. Let's not.
I'm such like a terrarium. Like my environment has to be so specific for
Yes.
me to
Yeah.
to
Well,
even
now,
be alive.
I look at our girls and I'm like, what is your generation going to make of like you're walking into Amazon Prime, Netflix, like everything is just there for you at all times. Like you will have no patience to deal with anything because you'll be like, how will you tell them anything? It's all right there all the time. So
Yeah.
it's like, man, I'm just gonna be along for the ride, just being like amazed and watching and being like, all right, let's all try to slow this down a bit. We can no Amazon Prime, Netflix, let's go. Like I got no time. Time is money.
It's hard even. I mean, sometimes I catch myself being that way, or like
100%.
if I'll be looking for a movie and it's like not on any streaming, and I'm like, I have 15 streaming services.
Yes.
You're telling me this
Yeah.
isn't on any of them?
Yeah.
But I gotta buy the DVD? Like, what the hell? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, there are literally like millions of movies at my disposal.
Yeah,
But this
yeah.
one is not,
Yeah.
And I'm
that's why I'm
pissed.
mad. And that's why I'm going to write a review about this entire service because they didn't do this one thing I liked one time for this specific time period.
Yeah.
Boo.
And then you
Agreed.
gotta step back and be like, you know what? I'm being unhinged.
I don't have to rewind a VHS tape anymore. Let's
Yeah.
calm down.
And I don't
These
even
are
have to
better
leave my
times.
house to get the movies in the first place. No
it's all
video
there.
rental. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all like Roman emperors just sitting on these beds like, bring the world to me. I don't like this. Go away. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm mad. And I'm mad for that reason.
And we're mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Old grouchy grandpas.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we in this movie? They flip the truck.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention
Uh-huh.
one of my favorite parts of the Psycho Sam scene is when Welfare Services is coming up and his suggestion that they all just play dead.
Yeah.
And again, just was dying laughing. But sorry.
He
yeah,
said it
yeah.
only works if we all do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That
but
was
yes,
great. And then he puts on the Bush costume again and goes out.
just bookmarks his scene. Yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So once they come out of the flipped over truck, they have the conversation, like we said, about the dad wanting to just give him back. Because the kid is upset, he again yells, "This guy is molesting me right now."
Yeah.
Again, didn't love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe even also not teaching because this is a family movie, not teaching kids a good lesson if you're unhappy with an adult to just yell that they're molesting you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's not great.
Not great.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
No, I agree. I think in that scene, especially because it is so like, I don't know, something about the time that happens at that point in the movie versus the other one, even though they're the same premise, the same joke, they feel different. And it could just be because it's the end of the movie. It's like the climax of it. It's like
the stakes are more real because the cops are there.
Yeah. So it definitely felt different that time than the other time. It feels like it is a joke. It's trying to be silly, but the other time is such a silly, goofy scene that it feels different than that one at the end, even though they're the same joke. That's not great.
Okay, so you didn't like it this time.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm not saying I loved it the other time. It's not. Listen, don't paint me. Don't paint this picture of me. But yeah, yes.
And then the kid shoots him in the ass after calling him a molester.
And then yeah.
The cops take them away after then. They're caught. They're basically caught. Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole trial of the dad character is in montage, so we don't even really know what he's accused of, why he's on trial, what's happening. They're just like 3 or 4 people describing what we've already seen throughout the movie. So hard to say what happened there.
Sure. Just more little snippets of people saying goofy things, yeah.
And yada, 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 he's in a halfway house.
Yeah, no notes.
Interesting. And also, the boy moved in with the hot horse girl. Okay.
So HHG for the layman's, yeah.
Yeah, moves in with HHG.
Yeah.
I guess he's going to, like, fall in love with his foster sister, and I don't know. That's all
all
weird.
For the sequel. That's all for us to dive into.
You know what else? That house also a single parent household. So what's the deal there?
That's true. We've got some issues with this movie. All right, we need to talk. Call Taika, get him on the horn. Let's discuss his movie from 5 years ago.
I need Taika on that horn.
And for longer than 5 minutes, Taika. Excuse you.
Yeah. So when we catch up with Pops at the halfway house, he's learning to read. And when the boy comes and reunites with them, wouldn't they have probably a protection order if he's just gone to jail for, I don't know. We don't know what he went to jail for, but presumably something to do with harming a child or presumably harming a child.
Again, my one law class at college wasn't specifically in New Zealand.
Child welfare.
Yes. So this is where I have to tap out. Yeah, just not sure.
You don't want anything to be held against you legally at this time.
Not at this time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Yeah, this is just another. This is one of those like read it on paper, it doesn't make sense, or I have more notes or things to say about it. But in this movie where I'm just kind of following these people along, I'm not like it just
you didn't
goes.
Think about any of this crap.
It just like it was there and I heard it and I knew it was part of the story, but like I was more more focused on the characters than even necessarily what was fully happening to them. So this is a funny, like going through this all, reviewing it and looking at it. I wonder what reading this as a book would feel like, because that is just all this like in detail sitting and focusing on it versus here's these goofy guys on an adventure and I'm just kind of along for the ride.
You're going to have to read this book to the babies.
I will, starting tonight. Wake
tell
the
me
girls
what
up.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll come back on the pod for a book review.
for the book episode, yeah.
Okay, so he catches up with the dad at the halfway house. Protection order, who knows? Dad is learning to read and has written a haiku for the young boy. I don't remember exactly what the words were, but something about their time together being the best.
Yeah.
They're friends now. And that's basically roll creds, I think. They run off together. He convinces dad to leave the halfway house.
Yeah, which he's ready to leave.
You can totally just do.
Yeah, you come and go as you please.
No repercussions.
Grab your toothbrush.
Famously what halfway houses are for.
Just a place to crash until you go on your next year-long adventure in the bush.
Yeah, they take off. Roll creds.
So if you reviewed this movie, if you gave it a percentage, what would that number be?
Okay, so we are each going to rate this out of 5.
Okay,
it's
perfect.
Part of my thing. So I read a lot of reviews about this movie because when I initially saw that the scores were so high, and that I didn't feel like my opinion necessarily aligned with those high scores. I read a bunch of reviews just to see what other people were saying. And I did find a couple good points that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of. One person said that, or pointed out that he allows his characters to go through hardships and losses without that becoming like their whole character, or the suffering becoming their whole character, which is often the case in marginalized people's stories, is like, it's just like torture porn, basically, or like it's only the sadness. So that was a good point. Yeah, like they go through hard stuff, but it's not the focus of their character. Yeah. So, yeah, okay, that's a good point. And then I saw another one, which I think maybe is giving too much credit here, but it's an observation. I'm just going to read it directly because I can't really paraphrase this. Sure. This is a film about people who have created certain images of themselves. Heck as a self-sufficient silent loner, Ricky as a hyperverbal competent outlaw, Paula as a child-saving Terminator, but they keep running up against their own limitation. So they have an image of themselves in their head that they're not reaching up to. Well,
that's kind of what we did talk about a little bit before, which is like,
sort of.
Is Ricky, like he says he's a gangster, but that's just the show? Is that just kind of the show he's putting on? He really just wants to be a little sweetie.
I don't know. It's an observation that, tracks, I guess, that I wouldn't necessarily have observed myself. Yeah. So you want me to rate this first?
This is your podcast. You can go in which order you so choose.
No, you should go first. Do yours first. Okay. Out of 5.
So the old, like Roger Ebert, how many stars? So is this my review after having now discussed it in this forum, or
you can give both if you want?
Okay, so I think before talking about it, like doing this deep dive on it, I would have given it 4 out of 5. Like maybe even like teetering towards a higher 4 out of 5 if there's a 4.5 in there.
You can do halves.
Okay, so I would have probably said like 4.5 out of 5. I think talking about it deeper, like doing the deeper dive on it, I think I'd pull back a little bit. Maybe it's a higher 3 or just like a low 4, because I think some of these plot holes I could see how it could take away from the viewing experience, or like it can hold you up on like, going along for the ride, because some of this stuff is just not tracking. So to that point, I'm still interested to see, if the book lined up and what the reading experience would be compared to the movie. But I think you can do an edit where you can lose some of the problematic jokes, and it's still like, I don't think this movie is like some old 90s movie where the whole time they're like, that's all this is. Like, I still think there's still meat on the bone here without that. They didn't need that stuff. I still think, the cameos are great, and the characters themselves, I think, are interesting enough to like drive this. But I think you can definitely cut stuff out of this to like just tighten it up and get it that extra, half star or star for those who are on the fence. I don't think this is a lost cause. I think it's almost there. I think it's right there.
Okay. So I gave this movie a 2. So I do think it looks cool. I do like the 2 side characters. I do like them. The acting of the other characters was fine, like I said, but they just weren't developed enough. And there were a lot of issues. And you know what? I feel like this movie was maybe even a little dated, not only in the humor, but like it feels like a movie you would have seen in like 2009, but it's coming out in 2016, Sure.
You could convince me that movie is from 2009. Yeah.
Yeah. The style of it is a little dated. Yeah. It was fine. And if you're rating this on a scale of like watching a family movie with your kids or whatever, it's probably pretty good besides the molester jokes.
Yeah. I don't think I'd watch this movie with my kids. I don't think I would pop this on for the kids. Like it is like, in premise, I think it is a family movie, but I think between some of the like warthog murder scenes and stuff like that, and some of those other jokes, like, I don't think that, I think those would be the things they get hung up on, or be like, what the hell is this?
That's a good point. I didn't think about the animal death when I said that.
Yeah. So, and even I was like, damn, but that's because I'm watching it, or, Jen and I are watching it, versus like that, and that's the thing, like putting on a movie for me or us versus now it's a viewing experience for a 6-year-old. It's like, I treat it like entirely differently.
Yeah. So if we're really judging this on an adult film adult film scale. I think there are two movies. So we're going to get to the question, would you recommend this? I think there are two movies that came to mind when I was watching this movie that are both way better and have a lot more heart and a lot more plot that I would recommend instead. And those movies are West Coast and Leave No Trace. When I was watching this, I was thinking it was kind of a combo of both, but just with way less heart or plot.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm going to recommend those movies to people instead of this one.
And give a pass on
this, I think. This was fine, but it didn't make me feel anything ultimately. The characters weren't developed enough. The two characters that I liked were in the movie for 2 minutes and died or went away. Yeah. So that's what I think. So would you recommend this? Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I would recommend it. I think you do have to take the good with the bad with it. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think there's definitely stuff you can fix about this or make it better, but I don't think you have to drop everything to watch it. I think if you're a fan of like that, like if you like Flight of the Conchords and you like this stuff, I think it's not a far reach, or What We Do in the Shadows. It's not a far reach that you'll probably enjoy this. I think I'd be curious to see what you would think about Jojo Rabbit, because it's been a minute since I've watched it, so maybe me even rewatching it will give a different opinion on it. But I'd be curious what your opinion would be on that movie, because it's like his sensibility, totally different story. But I'd be curious to see what you think about that one.
It's been on my list, so one of these days I'll get to it.
Yeah.
Now it's time for ScreenVomit.
So in this part of the podcast, we just go off about whatever else we've been watching, movies, shows, whatever else. So what you been watching? Anything?
I've paused on movies right now, aside from watching this, and then the movies we've been watching for the podcast. So 90s kid fare. We've actually been watching the show on Netflix called You, which is like that murder couple show, which is like the total like David Fincher ripoff. But I like David Fincher, so I am conflicted with like this is definitely a ripoff of him, but I also am a fan of him, so I'm like, okay, I could still watch it because it's like this is his same exact sensibility and this love-hate relationship with it. So I'm like have my issues with it, but then I also keep watching it. So about to finish that, and then I want to get caught up with, I know there's newer seasons of like Succession, and there's like some HBO shows that I want to get caught up on because they typically, I think they do some good stuff. But movie-wise, a lot of stuff we look forward to is like, there's a new Pixar movie coming out. Like there's stuff like that. So that's usually what's on the docket, is stuff like that. But yeah, squeaking in some shows for the meantime. What about you?
Wait, so you're just watching You? Anything else currently?
No, because we're kind of flying through that to get caught up and then to like jump into the next stuff.
Okay.
But Succession and Mindhunter are the ones I want to jump into after this as well.
Okay. Cool. All right, I have a couple things. Okay, I watched a couple 90s movies, two of them horror. So the two horror films that I watched from the 90s, one of them's kind of fun, goofy, and then the other one's like actual good. So the fun, goofy was Doppelganger from 1993. I'd never heard of it. I found it randomly on Tubi. It stars 18-year-old Drew Barrymore. And and she has an evil doppelganger. And
excellent.
Kind of goes from there, but it's like really fucking 90s, first of all, but really fucking insane. And I had never heard of it. I just randomly found it. So I recommend that one if you're into that vibe, Doppelganger.
Sure.
And then the actual good one I watched is called The Crush, and that is Alicia Silverstone's first major role. She's 17 in the movie, so...
Wait, is that the one with Mark Wahlberg?
It has Carrie Elwes.
Oh, that's it. I'm thinking of the movie where Mark Wahlberg's like a psycho boyfriend, and it's from the 90s. It's like the same, like probably came around on a similar time. Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so it's...
Where he's the teacher. He's the teacher, right?
He's like a journalist or something.
Okay.
So Carrie Elwes is like a journalist who moves into Alicia Silverstone's parents' like garage apartment or something. He just like is a renter.
Yep.
And she's young. I think she plays like 14 in the movie, and she just falls in love with him and becomes like a stalker. So it's like a stalker film.
Yep, I remember that one.
It was like actually pretty scary and intense, and like I thought I was going in for like a silly 90s horror, but it actually was like pretty good. So
Okay.
The Crush is what that one's called.
Crush.
Then I got two more. Okay, so I watched this movie, I don't know, maybe in the running for one of the longest titles of any movie. To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Have you seen this?
I have not seen that in a minute.
Yeah.
Since probably around the time it came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in 1995.
Yeah.
So I had never watched it, but it's been on my list for like years probably. This one has Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, all playing drag queens. They're on their way to Hollywood, I think, but their car breaks down in like a small town, and they sort of queer eye this small town.
Sure.
Basically, essentially the movie. But it was very like, I mean, it's complicated to think about three straight men, like three famously straight men, like kind of co-opting queerness and playing queer characters in such an overt way, and especially in the 90s. Woo.
Right.
But that all being considered, like they did do like a pretty good job with it, and I think it mostly holds up, like very surprisingly. I went in apprehensive, and I think it mostly holds up, and it was a pretty just like uplifting, like positive movie, which also for queer narratives in the 90s was not really what we were seeing, or even still really what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Speaking of focusing on marginalized people's trauma, like there is like it is addressed that they are worried for their safety in certain areas, but you know, overall it's very positive. So that was actually pretty good.
All right.
And then last one, it was also a rewatch, a short. This short called Assholes by Jonny Look. I love this short. Also features past guest of the pod, Kyle Mizzono, acting in it. And it's about a group of scientists who torture plants to get them to talk to humans. They do like psychological torture and physical torture of plants to get them to talk. It's just very fun, very creative, very unique. I really love that short. Yeah. So Assholes by Jonny Look. All right, shout out to Jonny. So what do you got to freaking plug?
So again, I'll be the skipping record. Got the podcast coming out. We thought this was good for all of you 80s and 90s kids looking to see if the movies of our youth have held up at all. Aside from that, that's about it. Just working and chilling with the fam, and you know, ho ho hoing and Merry Christmasing.
Hell yeah. You also extremely old plug, but your music is still on Spotify for Dr. Manhattan, I believe.
It sure is.
And
Apple
Bandcamp
Music
and all the crap. Yeah. There's maybe even records still out there for purchase.
Sure. I know I've got a box in my garage of Jam Dreams. Self-titled might be a little harder to find, but yeah, they're out there.
They're out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we sold a bunch to raise money about, I don't remember that was a couple years ago, so I don't know if we have any more.
Through Have Fun Records released the Jam Dreams record, and we've had Zach on the podcast he did a Shin Godzilla episode. So
of course he did a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
That tracks.
But it was Shin Godzilla, which is different than normal Godzilla. It's
fair.
Special. So check that out too.
Cool.
Speaking of life being a circle, etc. So yeah, that's the show. Thanks, Nick, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we'll see everybody else next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.